She was dragged behind a horse for refusing marriage until a rancher shot the rope vertical bar Wild West love. The Martian sun hung low in the dusty sky, painting the red plains in shades of orange and gold. Small settlements dotted the horizon, their metallic buildings glinting in the light. Wind whispered through the rocks, carrying the faint hum of hover cattle far off in the distance. Amara stood outside her small workshop, wiping her hands on a rag, eyes scanning the horizon. Her latest invention, a small gravlev tool, hummed quietly beside her. She loved the quiet of the Martian plains, where the sky seemed endless and the ground stretched out in waves of rust-red sand, but peace was rare on this frontier. Today, trouble had arrived. It started with a group of riders, hovering low above the dust on their sleek hover steeds. At their head was Darien, the son of one of the wealthiest ranching families on Mars. His eyes glinted with arrogance as he approached. "Amara," he called, his voice echoing in the open plains. "You belong with my family. It's time you agreed." Amara straightened, shaking her head. "No, Darien. I am not marrying you, or anyone, without my own choice. I have work to do. I have my inventions. My life is mine." The words were calm, but firm. Darien's jaw tightened and he turned to his men. "Show her what happens to those who refuse." Amara's stomach tightened. She had faced bullying before, but never like this. She glanced at her grav boots, strapped securely to her feet. If she moved fast enough, maybe she could outsmart whatever they had planned. Before she could react, Darien activated a long, glowing rope attached to her workshop door. The rope shot forward with a low whine and wrapped around her waist. At the other end, a hover steed hovered impatiently, its engine sparking lightly. The plan was simple: drag her across the plains to scare her into submission. Amara gasped and struggled against the rope. The hover steed surged forward, its engines humming louder. Her feet lifted slightly off the ground, her grav boots trying to stabilize her. She felt the ground pull away under her, red dust kicking up in swirling clouds. "Stop! You can't do this!" she shouted. The riders laughed, the sound echoing across the plains. But Amara's mind was already working. She had grown up on Mars, learned the tricks of machines, hoverstock, and gadgets. Panic had no place here. Gripping the rope tightly, she activated a small switch on her grav boots. A soft hum filled the air as the boots lifted her slightly, keeping her from scraping against the rocks. The hoversteed jerked, as if confused by her sudden elevation. Amara twisted in the air, turning herself so she faced the red sun and the open plains. Dust swirled around her, stinging her eyes, but she kept calm. She had done this before, tested prototypes in the worst conditions. If she could just reach the edge of the cliff near the canyon, she could drop the rope into the shallow wind currents and maybe escape. The hover steed surged, but Amara kicked lightly with her grav boots, adjusting her angle. She could feel every vibration, every movement of the rope, every change in the wind. It was almost beautiful. The way the plains shifted under the sun, the way the dust danced. She almost forgot the danger. Almost. From the distance, a lone figure watched. A man on a sturdy hover steed, far simpler than the sleek machines of Darien's crew. His clothes were dusty, his hat tipped low, and his hands rested casually on his tool belt. Jace, a wandering rancher known for repairing hoverstock, narrowed his eyes. Something about Amara's stance, the way she moved, told him she wasn't just a helpless girl. She was clever. She was resourceful. And she needed help. Back on the plains, Amara's rope started to fray at the edges, where it rubbed against the rocks. She gritted her teeth. There was no time for fear. With a small flick of her hand, she triggered a mechanism on her wrist gadget. Tiny magnetic spikes shot out and attached to the hover steed's underbelly. It made a loud whine and spun slightly in the air, throwing Darien's men off balance. "Hey, stop that!" Darien shouted. Amara grinned, her heart racing. The steed couldn't control her now. She kicked her grav boots gently, drifting sideways, then forward, riding the rope like it was a wave. The wind whipped her hair and dust painted her cheeks red. She could see the canyon's edge approaching, the shadow of the rocks growing longer. Then, with a final twist, she launched herself off the rope, landing safely on the ground with her boots cushioning the fall. The hoversteed continued past her, spinning lightly in the air before the rope snapped. Darien and his men skidded to a stop, shouting in disbelief. Amara stood, brushing the dust from her clothes, and faced them. "I told you," she said calmly. "I make my own choices." The riders muttered, frustrated, and hovered away, leaving a cloud of dust behind them. Amara exhaled slowly, her heart still racing. She had done it. She had escaped. "Impressive," a voice said. Amara turned to see Jace approaching, his hover steed gliding smoothly over the dust. He knelt beside the frayed rope, examining it. "You're lucky," he said. "This rope was rigged to pull you across the canyon floor. You could have been seriously hurt." Amara smiled weakly. "I know, but I also have grav boots and a bit of luck." Jace laughed. "Luck, skill, and quick thinking. Not many people can survive that." "You've got guts, I'll give you that." Amara studied him carefully. He didn't seem like the others. No arrogance, no threats, just calm, steady confidence. Maybe she could trust him. "Can you help me with the rope?" she asked. "I need to make sure it doesn't pull anyone else by accident." "Of course. Let's get this sorted before anyone else tries any tricks." Together they worked on the rope, using small tools and magnetic clamps to secure it. Amara explained her inventions, her grav boots, and her small grav-lev devices. Jace listened, genuinely interested, asking questions about the mechanics and the way the devices worked. "You're amazing," he said finally, looking up at her. "Most people would have panicked, but you handled that like a pro." Amara felt a small warmth in her chest. Compliments weren't common on the Martian frontier, especially not for a young woman with big ideas. She smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I had to," she said simply. "There's too much at stake out here to panic, and besides, I hate being told what to do." Jace chuckled. "I get that. Out here you learn fast, either you adapt, or you get left behind in the dust. But I think Darian isn't going to give up easily. You'll need to stay alert." Amara nodded. She had a feeling he was right, but for the first time in days she felt a sense of relief, and maybe a little excitement. The planes were dangerous, yes, but with her gadgets and quick thinking, she could survive, and now perhaps she wasn't completely alone. Jace looked at her one last time before mounting his hover steed. "If you need help again, you know where to find me." Amara watched him ride off into the distance, the wind carrying dust and hope across the red plains. She knew this wasn't the end of her troubles, but she also knew something new had begun. An adventure, a challenge, and maybe even friendship on the Martian frontier. And as the sun dipped lower behind the canyon, Amara felt the thrill of the unknown. Danger, excitement, and the vast, endless possibilities of the Martian plains stretching before her. The Martian plains were quiet in the early morning, dust swirling gently in the pale sunlight. Amara stood outside her workshop, repairing the grav-lev tool she had nearly finished the day before. Her hands were steady, but her mind was still buzzing from yesterday's incident. She had escaped Darian's scheme, thanks to her grav boots and quick thinking, but she knew that trouble rarely stayed away for long on the frontier. She adjusted the tool, tightening the small screws with precision. The hum of the machine filled the air, a comforting sound that reminded her she could rely on her own skills. From the distance, a familiar figure appeared. Jace, the wandering rancher who had watched her struggle against the hover steed, was approaching slowly, his hover steed gliding lightly over the red dust. Amara's first instinct was caution. She didn't know him well, and the Martian plains were full of people who looked helpful but had hidden agendas. "Good morning," Jace called as he neared. His voice was calm, friendly. "I thought I'd check in. How's the tool coming along?" Amara wiped her hands on her rag and studied him carefully. There was something genuine in his eyes. "It's fine," she said. "I'm almost done." "It needs just a few adjustments," Mel said. Jace dismounted smoothly, his boots making soft imprints in the Martian dust. "Need a hand?" "I've fixed plenty of hover devices in my time. Sometimes another set of eyes helps." Amara hesitated. It was rare for her to let someone help with her inventions. Most people didn't understand them, but something about Jace felt different. He didn't rush her, didn't try to take over. He just offered help. "All right," she said finally, "but only if you follow my instructions exactly." "I can do that." They worked side by side in silence for a while, the only sounds the hum of the grav-lev tool and the whisper of wind across the plains. Amara explained each part of the device, showing how tiny magnetic pulses could lift heavy objects, how grav boots helped her balance on uneven surfaces, and how energy cells powered everything. Jace listened intently, asking questions that showed he understood more than most people did. "You've got real talent," he said finally. "Most people on the frontier don't think about mechanics this way. They just ride and survive." You create." Amara felt a small warmth in her chest. Compliments were rare in her life, and even rarer from someone she didn't know well. "Thanks," she said quietly. I like solving problems, I guess. I like challenges. Challenges are good. Keeps life interesting out here. As they finished the Gravlev tool, a faint hum in the distance caught Amara's attention. She looked up, her brows furrowed. That sound, it's coming from the hover cattle pens. Jace's expression grew serious. Rogue, hover cattle, maybe. Or Darian messing with your equipment again? Let's check it out. They climbed onto Jace's hover steed and glided toward the pens. As they approached, they saw a group of hover cattle spinning and darting across the enclosure, their magnetic collars malfunctioning. They weren't aggressive, they were just panicked, confused by something in the system. Amara frowned. I think someone tampered with the controls. Look at the patterns. The energy pulses aren't right. I can stabilize them, but I'll need your Gravlev tool to do it properly. Ready? Amara held it tightly. Ready. Together they worked quickly. Jace guided the hover cattle with his experience, while Amara adjusted the energy pulses to calm the animals. The Gravlev tool pulsed with a soft blue light as she made precise calibrations. Slowly, the hover cattle began to move in sync again, their panic fading. Nice work, Jace said, smiling. You've got a steady hand. That tool of yours, it's brilliant. Amara felt a surge of pride. It works because I understand the animals. Machines are one thing, but hoverstock, you have to feel them. Jace laughed softly. Exactly. You've got more than brains, you've got intuition. Not many people out here have both. As they finished, Amara noticed something strange in the dust near the pen gate, a small, glowing device half buried in red sand. She picked it up carefully. This wasn't mine, she said. Someone planted it. Jace leaned closer, examining it. Looks like a tracker, or a signal booster. Could be Darian trying to keep tabs on you again. Or someone else. Either way, it's clever. Amara's heart sank slightly. She had thought the worst of Darian was behind them, but clearly he or someone was still watching. We need to be careful, she said. I can try to disable it, but it might trigger if I'm not careful. Jace nodded. Then we do it together. 2 heads are better than 1. For the next hour, they worked side by side, carefully dismantling the device. Sparks flew from tiny circuits, but no one was hurt. They laughed at minor mistakes and celebrated small victories, the tension slowly fading. When the device was finally neutralized, Amara leaned back, wiping her brow. We did it. No harm done. Smart, careful, and a little fearless. Not many people can handle all that without panicking. Amara felt a flutter in her chest. She didn't know why she trusted him so quickly, but something about his calm presence and respect for her abilities made her feel safe. For the first time in a long while, she didn't feel alone on the frontier. Thanks, she said quietly, for helping me and for not underestimating me. Anytime, Jace replied, his eyes warm. That's what partners are for, right? Watching each other's backs. Amara nodded. She didn't know if they were partners yet, but she liked the idea, and maybe, just maybe, this was the start of a new friendship, or something more. As the sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across the red plains, they finished securing the hover cattle and returned to Amara's workshop. She showed Jace her latest project, a small portable hover drone designed to help manage the herds. Its tiny engines whirred softly as she demonstrated, hovering and spinning in the Martian air. Impressive, Jace said, watching it float. That could save a lot of work on the ranches. Amara smiled. I'm hoping it does. There's always room for improvement, though. I have a few ideas for the next version. They spent the rest of the afternoon tinkering and discussing ideas. Jace shared stories of life on different Martian ranches, the challenges of keeping hoverstock healthy, and the tricks of surviving dust storms and grav shifts. Amara shared her dreams, inventions, and the small victories of building something that actually worked. By evening, the sky had turned a deep shade of red, blending into violet as the twin moons rose slowly above the horizon. Amara and Jace stepped outside, watching the changing colors over the endless plains. You know, Jace said thoughtfully, most people out here would have panicked when they saw you yesterday. Me too, at first. But then I saw how calm you were. How clever. I think you're going to do great things, Amara. Amara felt a soft warmth in her chest. Thanks, Jace. I hope I can. And I'm glad you're here to help. It makes everything feel possible. They stood quietly, side by side, watching the horizon. The wind carried the soft hum of distant hover steeds, the red dust glowing in the moonlight. For a moment, the dangers of the frontier felt far away. For a moment, the world felt full of possibilities. But Amara knew that challenges were never far behind. Darien and his schemes were still out there, and the Martian plains were unpredictable. She had to stay sharp, think quickly, and trust her instincts. And she had a feeling Jace would be there for whatever came next. Because out here, on the wild Martian frontier, having someone you could rely on made all the difference. As the first stars appeared in the deep violet sky, Amara felt a spark of excitement. This was only the beginning. Adventures awaited, problems to solve, and mysteries to uncover. And maybe, just maybe, there was room for friendship and more on the red plains of Mars. The morning sun rose slowly over the Martian horizon, casting long orange shadows across the endless red plains. Amara adjusted her grav boots and looked at Jace, who was already preparing his hover steed. Today, they weren't just tinkering or fixing equipment. They were heading out to track a herd of rogue hover cattle reported near the canyon cliffs. These animals are out of control, Amara said, tightening her tool belt. They've been spotted darting across the plains for hours. If we don't guide them back, they could damage equipment or scare the settlers.
Jace nodded. We'll need teamwork.
I'll guide them from above while you use your gravlev tools to adjust their paths. It's tricky, but I think we can do it. Amara smiled. All right, let's do this. The wind whipped against their faces, carrying fine red dust that made the horizon shimmer. In the distance, they could see the erratic shapes of the hover cattle, glowing faintly with the energy from their magnetic collars. The herd scattered in chaotic patterns, darting left and right, unaware of the humans tracking them. Look at them, Jace said, pointing. They're not aggressive, but they're scared. Something spooked them. Amara's eyes narrowed. Could be the wind shifts, could be faulty collars, or someone tampering with them again. Either way, we need to move fast. They split up slightly. Jace flew above the herd, guiding them with gentle signals from his hover steed's magnetic stabilizers. Amara stayed lower, adjusting small grav pulses from her handheld device. The pulses nudged individual animals, helping them regroup without causing panic. At first, progress was slow. The herd scattered with every step, and Amara had to recalibrate her tool constantly. But gradually, the animals began to follow Jace's signals. You're good at this, Jace said, glancing back at her. I thought the herd would have gone wild by now. But your pulses... Amara smiled, concentrating on her device. It's not just the tool. I understand how they move. It's like a dance. You have to know when to push and when to let them move. They worked together, shifting the herd gently across the plains. The sun climbed higher, turning the red dust into a brilliant orange glow. Amara adjusted her gravlev tool and noticed a small device buried in the sand near a rock formation, a similar one to the tracker they had disabled the day before. Jace, she said, pointing. Another one. Someone's tracking the herd. Looks like Darien, or maybe someone trying to cause trouble. Either way, we handle it the same way as last time. Careful, but clever. Amara nodded. Using a small magnetic clamp from her toolkit, she lifted the device carefully and deactivated it. A soft hum confirmed it was no longer transmitting. Nice work, Jace said. You're really quick with those gadgets. Amara felt a spark of pride. I've had a lot of practice, and I like solving problems like this. With the tracker disabled, they continued guiding the herd toward a safe enclosure near the canyon cliffs. The animals were calmer now, responding to the pulses and signals. Amara adjusted each nudge carefully, ensuring none of them got too close to the cliff edges. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind swept across the plains, kicking up a wall of red dust. The herd scattered again, and Amara's tool struggled to stabilize the pulses. She felt herself lifted slightly by her grav boots as she adjusted to the sudden shift. Steady, Jace called from above. Follow the wind. Don't fight it. Work with it. Amara adjusted the angles of her pulses, letting the wind carry the animals while guiding them back on track. Slowly, the herd began to regroup. The dust swirled around them, glowing in the sunlight, making the moment feel almost magical. After a tense half hour, the herd finally reached the safe enclosure. Amara and Jace watched them settle, their magnetic collars now stabilized and glowing softly in sync. The animals moved calmly, no longer scattered or panicked. We did it, Amara said, exhaling deeply. All of them, safe and sound. Jace nodded, a wide smile spreading across his face. That was incredible. You handled the pulses perfectly. Most people would have panicked with that dust storm in the scattered herd. Amara felt warmth in her chest. Thanks. I couldn't have done it without you guiding them from above. They walked back toward their hover steeds, brushing red dust from their clothes. The wind had settled, leaving the plains quiet and still. Amara, Jace said thoughtfully, you're not just clever, you're brave. and patient. Most people wouldn't have the patience to handle all this without getting frustrated. Amara laughed softly. I've had to be patient. The frontier doesn't forgive mistakes. And sometimes you just have to figure things out quickly. I think you'll do great things out here. Not just with hover cattle or tools, but with life. You're clever, resourceful, and inspiring.
Amara felt a flutter in her chest, a mix of pride and something warmer.
She didn't know what to say at first. Thanks, she said finally. That means a lot. They mounted their hover steeds again, heading back toward the settlement. The twin moons were beginning to rise, casting a soft violet glow over the plains. The air was cool now, and the wind whispered through the rocks, carrying the faint hum of distant machinery and hoverstock. On the way back, they passed a narrow canyon, its walls lined with strange crystal formations that shimmered in the twilight. Amara paused to admire the view. I never get tired of this, she said. No matter how many times I see it, the Martian plains always surprise me. Jace glanced at her, smiling. It's beautiful and dangerous, but mostly beautiful. Amara nodded, feeling a thrill of excitement. The plains were unpredictable, yes, but that unpredictability made life here vibrant. Every day brought challenges, puzzles, and discoveries. And now, with Jace at her side, she felt ready to face anything. As they approached the settlement, they saw Darian's hover steed parked near the outskirts. He wasn't moving, just watching, a frown on his face. Amara's heart sank slightly. Even after everything, he hadn't given up. Looks like he's still keeping an eye on us, she said quietly. Jace nodded. Don't worry. We handled the herd safely, and we can handle him too, without trouble. Let's focus on what we can control. Amara took a deep breath, adjusting her grav boots. You're right. We've got the tools, we've got each other, and we've got the plains. That's more than enough. Darian's presence lingered like a shadow, but for now, it didn't matter. The plains were theirs to explore, the hover cattle safe, and the day's adventure behind them. And for the first time, Amara felt a sense of calm, mixed with excitement. Excitement for the unknown, for the next adventure, for the partnership that was quietly forming between her and Jace. And as the twin moons rose higher, casting silver light over the red plains, Amara felt something she hadn't felt before. Hope. Hope that she could face the challenges of the Martian frontier, invent new tools, protect the animals she cared for, and maybe, just maybe, find someone to share it all with. The frontier was wide, endless, and full of possibilities, and Amara was ready to explore every inch of it. The Martian sun had dipped below the horizon, leaving the plains bathed in shades of deep red and violet. Amara adjusted her grav boots and stretched, looking at the horizon where the twin moons glowed softly. The day had been long, hover cattle secured, devices disabled, and Darian's lingering interference handled, but her mind buzzed with excitement. There was something about the Martian frontier at night that made her feel alive, like the world was full of possibilities. Jace approached quietly, his hover steed gliding silently over the dust. He dismounted and leaned against a rock beside her, his eyes reflecting the moon's soft light. You handled the herd like a pro today, he said. I didn't think we'd get them all back safely, but we did. Amara smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. We did it together. I couldn't have done it without your guidance. You really know how to read the herd. Jace shrugged modestly. I've had a lot of practice. But you did something I've never seen before. You didn't just guide them, you understood them. You feel the patterns, the movements, almost like you're part of the plains. Amara felt a warmth in her chest. No one had ever spoken about her skills that way before. Most people either ignored her or assumed she couldn't handle the frontier life. But Jace, he saw her, truly saw her. For a while they stood in silence, watching the plains glow under the twin moons. The hover cattle were settled now, grazing quietly, their magnetic collars pulsing softly like heartbeat lights across the red ground. Amara, Jace said softly, can I ask you something? Of course, she replied, curious. Why do you keep pushing yourself like this? Taking risks, inventing, handling everything out here alone? His voice was gentle, not judging, just curious. Amara thought for a moment. Because I have to. Out here, no one can survive by waiting for someone else to solve problems. And I like creating things, solving problems. It makes me feel alive, and I like knowing that the work I do matters. Every small invention, every adjustment, it changes things, makes life a little better. I understand that. I do the same thing with the hoverstock. But it's rare to meet someone who combines that kind of skill with courage. Most people just get scared. Amara smiled faintly. I get scared too, she admitted. But fear, it's just part of the frontier. You can't let it stop you. Jace looked at her for a long moment. I like that about you. Your courage, your calm, your determination. It's inspiring. Amara felt her heart skip a beat. Something soft and warm stirred inside her. Thank you, Jace. That means a lot. They walked slowly toward the settlement, the soft glow of the twin moons guiding their path. The night was peaceful now, almost magical. Red dust glimmered under the moonlight, and distant hills cast long shadows across the plains. The frontier, with all its challenges, seemed alive and welcoming at the same time. Do you ever think about leaving? Amara asked suddenly. Leaving Mars, I mean? Seeing other worlds exploring? Jay shook his head. Not really. The plains are my home. The challenge, the unpredictability, the freedom, it suits me. But I like having someone to share it with. That's rare. Amara felt a flutter of warmth again. She realized she wasn't alone anymore. Not truly. Jace had been by her side during her most tense moments, guided her through challenges, and respected her skills. She felt something she hadn't expected. Connection. Before she could respond, a soft hum caught their attention. A small hover drone, one of Amara's designs, floated toward them, its tiny engines glowing softly in the night. It had a message, a signal showing that all the colony's hover stock were secure, no tampering detected. Amara smiled. Everything's fine. The plains are calm tonight. Good. Then maybe we can just enjoy it. They walked to a small hill overlooking the plains, settling on the soft red dust. The twin moons reflected off Amara's grav boots and Jace's hover steed, casting long, gentle shadows. They spoke quietly, sharing stories of their childhoods, their hopes, and the small adventures that had shaped them. I never thought I'd find someone like you out here, Jace said finally. Someone clever, brave, and kind. You make the frontier feel less lonely. She didn't know what to say. I feel the same. It's not easy out here, but having someone who understands makes everything better. Jace smiled softly and reached out. Amara, would you maybe stick with me for a while? Explore the plains together? Solve problems together? I'd like that. The moment felt simple, yet profound. No words about love or promises, just understanding, trust, and shared excitement for what lay ahead. It was the frontier, after all. Life was about action, adventure, and working together to face challenges. And in that quiet moment, they knew they had found a partner in each other. The twin moons rose higher, casting silver light over the plains. Dust shimmered softly, reflecting off the metallic edges of Amara's Gravlev tool and the smooth hull of Jace's hover steed. Everything seemed calm, peaceful, and full of potential. Amara glanced at Jace. Do you think we'll ever stop finding adventures? She asked with a playful smile. Jace laughed softly. Not on the Martian plains. There's always something new, something unexpected. And it's better with company. They spent the night planning. Small inventions, ways to improve the hover cattle systems, and even ideas for exploring further into the Martian frontier. Each idea sparked another, and before they realized it, the stars were shining brightly above them. The twin moons were high, illuminating the endless plains. At one point, Amara paused and looked at the horizon. Do you ever think about what the future will look like here?
On Mars?
Jace considered for a moment. I do. I think the frontier is going to keep changing. New inventions, new settlers, new challenges. But if we stay clever, work together, and respect the land and its creatures, I think we can thrive. Amara nodded, feeling a deep sense of peace. I like that. I want to help make it better. Not just survive, but thrive. Jace smiled. Then we'll do it together. No more trying to do everything alone. For the first time in a long while, Amara felt completely safe and understood. The plains were still wild and unpredictable, but they no longer felt daunting. With Jace by her side, every challenge seemed like an adventure, every mystery an opportunity. The wind whispered softly, carrying the faint hum of distant hover steeds. Dust shimmered under the moons and the horizon stretched endlessly. Amara felt a thrill of possibility. Everything she had faced, everything she would face was part of the adventure, and now she had someone to share it with. They sat side by side, quiet and comfortable, watching the moons climb higher into the Martian sky. The colony lights twinkled faintly in the distance, a reminder that they were not alone. But for now, the plains belonged to them. The air was filled with quiet excitement, the thrill of possibilities, and the peace of having overcome challenges together. Finally, Jace spoke softly. We'll check the other herds, maybe test your new Gravlev designs, but tonight, let's just enjoy the moment. The frontier is wide, wild, and full of potential. Amara leaned back, letting the soft Martian dust support her. I like that. Wide, wild, full of potential, and we're part of it. They sat together, under the twin moons, knowing that life on the Martian frontier would always bring new challenges, but also new adventures, discoveries, and moments like this. Moments of quiet connection, trust, and understanding. The night was calm. The plains were peaceful, and for the first time in a long while, Amara felt truly at home. Because the frontier wasn't just a place, it was a story, and she and Jace were finally writing theirs together.